It's time for a good old-fashioned musket battle. As we blindfold ourselves, take 10 paces, turn and...
No.
Not that kind of shootout? No. We're going to try 2 different Australian muscat barrel aged whiskies and taste them blind and see how we feel. Let's redo that.
I don't know, you can keep it in. It's fine.
Hey guys, I'm Nathan Martin, the Whiskey Scribe, and I'm here with Mark Modra from the Brisbane Whisky Scene. And today we're going to do a blind tasting of 2 different Australian whiskies, both aged in muscat barrels, and see how we go on how the flavours compare, and also without bias, which one both of us actually prefer. So Mark, you've brought with you the Starward Muscat Barrel. You want to tell us a little bit about that one?
Sure. So I was lucky enough to receive a sample of the Starward Muscat. So we've got a single malt whiskey fully matured for 4 years in muscat barrels from Rutherglen, Victoria, championing the iconic muscat grape our distillers use, combining of wet filled and charred barrels. So taking on the caramelized muskat's undertones, this unique experiment balances the delicious sweet sticky characteristics in the soft oak. We'll see if they come out.
Yeah. And so I think one of the other important notes is they've used a combination of wet muscat barrels as well as charred muscat barrels. So both processes should bring different flavors out. And also this was released on ballot, I think, yesterday and sold out in like about 10 hours. So you've got a full bottle coming and I missed out.
It has. It's only just been finished and it was released, I think, only a few days ago. And yeah, so I will be looking forward to my barrel and my bottle. So yeah.
Yeah, fair enough. Snooze, you lose. So what I've got, that's the ghost. Don't worry about the ghost.
Oh,
just, yeah, spirits.
That's okay.
So what I've got is the Overeem Muscat Cask Finish. This is a little bit different to the Starward bottle because while Starward spent 4 years in muscat barrels, the Overeem has spent the first 5 years in a combination of port and sherry casks, and then it spent another 3 years in muscat barrels. And all of these barrels are actually from the Barossa Valley, so South Australia rather than Victoria. And it's a total of 8 years of aging time compared to 4. I'm not going to say one is better than the other, but it's probably going to have some significant difference.
Should.
This one's at 48.5%. What was yours?
So this one was 48%.
Mm-hmm. So very similar ABVs. So on that field, they're pretty much level. Yeah, and Tasmanian whiskey and Victorian.
Victorian.
I like that you point out ABV like you're going to be able to tell the difference.
Sometimes I can. Anyway.
I would have done better.
Important note with this too though is the Overeem is actually still available to buy via the Overeem website, whereas the Starward, you can't get it. It's gone.
I will enjoy my bottle.
I missed out. Right, so let's start by nosing A. This is the most interesting part of the video.
Yeah, so much fun to edit.
It's funny, you know, usually when there's a whiskey aged in like a fortified wine barrel, I can pick up either a distinct note of the wine barrels or the whiskey, but I'm sort of not really getting a particular one of each on this.
Not getting too much at all. I feel like there's something that's coming through, but...
There's like a caramelized sweetness, but it's not... Yeah, it's sort of... Is it kind of like almost caramelized apricot? Do you think?
I feel like there's definitely some sweetness there. It's a little bit of that really subtle apricot sweetness. But yeah, there's not too much on the nose at all.
No, not heaps. All right, so let's see what B has on the nose. And keeping in mind that we actually don't know which one is which.
Ooh.
Ooh.
It's got a lot more in it.
Mmm. It's funny, these are both almost identical ABVs, but this one almost smells like it's got more alcohol too.
But the last one, it just smelt like the alcohol with a little bit coming through. This one has a lot more coming through as well.
Yeah, so with this, I do actually get that that sort of wood aroma that you tend to get from a fortified wine cask. A little bit of marzipan.
I think it's definitely dropped back since we've taken it off. It's a big hit, and then it's...
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
We had these covered with a lid, so as soon as we took the lid off, we got the full brunt of all the nose. So I'm getting this sweetness that sort of sits like at the back of the palate, and it reminds me of happy gas. Like when you're a kid and you went to the dentist and they would just gas you out because you're ADHD and you can't sit still in the chair. But I can always remember that happy gas always had like this sweetness on the back of your palate.
You must have missed that.
And I find usually when people are talking about marzipan on the flavour of a whiskey, that's the nose that I'm getting.
Okay. Definitely getting the salivation. I'm like, I really just want to try it. Oh my gosh.
So should we try A first and then come back to B?
Sure, we can do that. Something different.
Oh, go on, hang on. Just comparing these two. So I'm just going to try and get the legs showing. But if you look at these,
Very oily. Yeah.
they're both pretty oily.
Yeah.
Both really oily. I only glimpsed it in B, but A, now that I look at it, is extremely oily too.
The very long legs.
Gives me hope. So when a whiskey's oily, it means that when they've distilled it, they've allowed a lot of the congeners to come through, and those congeners tend to carry flavour notes. So when you age it in the barrel, it's just going to pick up more from the wood, and that's why there's that argument about non-chill whiskey versus chill filtered whiskey. Slash?
Slash.
It's very soft and smooth.
For the nose, the taste is a lot more. Yeah.
I wasn't picking up a lot on the nose, but there was at one point I almost said there's a faint smell of new leather.
Okay.
And now that I've tasted that, I'm getting more of that.
I'm definitely getting the raisins, sweetness.
It's almost like a Christmas pudding is being delivered in a leather box.
Just so much
Yeah.
noises that I'm gonna really love coming to listen back to again later.
Yeah, that's quite soft. Like it's got nice flavors, but just on the palate it feels very soft. It's very easy drinking.
Yeah, it's not.
I already have an assumption as to which one's which.
Do you? Okay.
Do you not?
I don't know. I thought it would be, but I don't know. I didn't know if it'd be easy, but I thought there was definitely going to be clear things, but I don't know. After only having one.
Should we move on to B?
If we must.
Slash.
Slash. Ooh.
I feel like there's more going on there.
Yeah, I get something in the back as well.
Yeah, on the first sip, there was sort of, for a very brief moment, there was almost less flavour. But then at the back of the palate is where it sort of all comes together. So I'm getting some of that sweetness that you get from sultanas and things like that, but nowhere near as much as I expected on the nose. But I'm actually getting like a marriage of wood.
Yeah, I was getting something wood at the end of it. It's definitely there.
We're both getting wood over this whiskey.
It's definitely. Yeah, it's a weird sort of.
It's almost like there's a combination of oak and sandalwood or something. It's more than one.
Yeah, it's, I don't know, foresty wood. It's it's definitely a blend. It's definitely has more than one thing, and it's, I don't know, the apricots and stuff aren't really. I'm not getting them.
I'm not getting a lot of fruity sort of sweetness on that.
No, the first one was definitely more sweeter, fruitier.
And now that you mention it, if I come back to that one, I think, there is almost this. I think kind of like dried apricot. You know, where it's sort of been caramelized a little bit. It's still a little bit chewy.
The apricots are coming through more now. Yeah.
Whereas I feel like the second one is just a little bit sharper as well. Like those flavors push through, whereas the first one is more of a mellow, and the second one it's quite succinct. Well, I don't know about you, but I have a theory as to which one is which. I think the first one we tried was the Starward whiskey.
That's what I was going to say.
And I think the second one was the Overeem. So you felt the same way?
I think so. Knowing Starward and knowing I think just the sweetness and the apricots, and I think it's, definitely a lot more sweeter. And the second one has, different, I don't know if there's more going on, but there's definitely different things happening as well.
So would you have a favorite out of the two?
Ooh. I think with most whiskies, it's sort of like you could really want one over the other. Sometimes you really want that strong peat, and then other times you don't. So I think these two, sometimes you just want that nice sweet taste, the apricots. I love like those dried apricots as well. So the second one, I think I'd definitely like to explore more and sit there and enjoy it for a little while and let it open up as well over time. So, but yeah, probably leaning towards those apricots, those sweetness I really like.
So you're leaning more towards the first one?
Probably, yeah.
Well, I suppose, drum roll, which one's which? Were we right?
Yes, you were right. The first one, A, is Starward.
Yeah.
And B is Overeem.
Did you have a favourite?
I'm in the same boat as you in that, like, I think each of these different whiskies have a different place. If I was to buy one, I would probably go for B. I would go for the Overeem.
Yeah.
Because that is more of a whiskey to, as you said, it's the one that you want to sit down and explore. You want to unpack it. Whereas I still think Starward though is just as enjoyable a whiskey. It's just for me, it'll be more of a session whiskey. It'll be something I would drink where I wanted to taste the first couple of sips and think about what I'm having, and then maybe top up the glass 3 or 4 more times while just catching up with friends or something like that. I also think it's more approachable. I would have more confidence giving a glass of that to somebody who's not usually a whiskey drinker.
The Starward?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whereas the Overeem, I feel like it's a little bit sharper. There's a little bit more going on there. I think if you're not into whiskey, you might think that's too much.
Yeah. Having said that, I think they're both approachable as for new whiskey drinkers as well. They're not sort of like well out of the range of people that are just starting off. They're enjoyable for people that are well on their way as well. And you'll definitely be able to get different experiences out of both of them as well.
Yeah. So there you go. If you want a whiskey that you're going to explore a lot, go for the Overeem. If you want to, again, like a just as enjoyable whiskey, go for the Starward, but you're already too late. So
yes, you need to find the good friend that already has the bottle that's on the way. So
hey, that's
not
you.
me, no. Yeah.
Can I make a note? So I thought that the colour was going to give it away.
That's
Because when I poured the Starward and then I poured the Overeem, I was like, oh well, you get it. If you looked at those bottles before we filmed.
I thought that too, because I saw that the Starward was quite dark, but there wasn't a whole lot in this, so I wasn't sure how much of that was a lighter colour and how much there was just more light going through it.
But you know what's interesting though, because that Overeem is older than the Starward. So I was like,
This is where, so Overeem, I know, do char all their barrels when they're going to reuse them. So they get a barrel in from another winery or something like that, and they'll char them first, and then they'll put the whiskey in them. What Starward did was use a combination of wet and charred barrels. And when you do that, you sometimes have an undisclosed amount of the former inhabitants of the barrel still in there. And there can be a little bit of contention sometimes in the whiskey world when people say they're using wet barrels, because that wetness might be just a little bit of what's still splashing around a little bit to keep the barrel moist, but it could also be 3 litres of PX sherry cask still in there. And if you're throwing whiskey in there, is it really still whiskey if you've mixed it with a whole lot of something else?
Yes it is.
Yeah.
Well, I think Australia is really good. Like, we have so much. If you want wine cask, we've got plenty of wine. If you want, like, whatever you want, Australia has, and we have an amazing selection all over Australia. So, I mean, if you're going to use these things, I mean, why not? It's definitely
Why not?
But yeah, I mean, the whiskey is amazing. I haven't, I think Australian whiskey is great, and they've got access to amazing barrels anyway that you don't have to sit there and fight for as much. I don't know if that's actually the case, but we have access to a lot, so why not use it?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, if we've got good wine and we've got good whiskey, why not bring them together? Right, well, thanks so much for joining me and doing that, and for, bringing me the whiskey. But do you want to just let us know what you do?
Yeah, so I run the Brisbane Whisky Scene here in Brisbane. So I help promote events. I also work with some of the local clubs to organise tastings, and we get ambassadors up as well. So so Brisbane Whisky Scene, we have a website, a newsletter once a month, and the Instagram has all the events that are coming up as well. So if you're in Brisbane or if you're just visiting, it's a great place to have a look at all the different events, see what's out there. We've got dinners and tastings and so many other things. So jump onto the website or the socials and you'll find out what's happening here in Brisbane.
Cool. And I'll put links in the description below so you can follow Brisbane Whisky Scene.
Yeah.
I'm Nathan Martin, the Whiskey Scribe. I put up new videos every week. If you want to see more from me, hit subscribe. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like. It doesn't cost you anything. It really, really helps me out. But until next time, enjoy what's in your glass. I finished that one. There's a little bit left. Slange. It's anytime people are doing tasting notes, somebody says something outrageous that then sets the tone for everyone else. I can remember the first whiskey tasting night that I went to. I said something like, I think I compared one whiskey to somebody who thinks they're dressed fashionably, but they've actually just bought exactly what the mannequin was wearing in Tarakash front window.
Fair enough.
And then for the rest of the night, everyone was comparing it to just different levels of how well dressed somebody was. And then the best whiskey of the night, they said, it's like, to me, this is like somebody who not just has the right clothes, but also went to finishing school. They know the behaviors. They know how to approach people and where to put their cutlery on the... Yeah, somebody always sets it down a bad tangent.
Usually you.
Yeah, it's usually me.
Mm-hmm.